In the frozen depths of a December night in the year 1702, 47 shadows moved through the snow-covered streets of Edo. They were not criminals, but samurai bound by an oath of vengeance. That night, they would carve their names into the soul of Japan. Yet the truth of what followed is stranger than the legend most people know. Stick with me, because later I'll reveal why even the Shiugunkan feared this tale might shatter their fragile peace. This is the story of the 47 Rōnin. You're watching Japan Rewind, where we uncover the hidden stories of samurai, castles, and the legends of Japan. The Master's Fall. Lord Asano Naganori ruled the domain of Aku with the quiet dignity expected of a daimyo in the age of the Tokugawa Bakufu. In the spring of 1701, he received a summons that would seal his fate. An imperial envoy was coming to Edo Castle, and Asano would serve as one of the ceremonial hosts. The honor came with a deadly burden. He would be instructed in court etiquette by Kira Kuzukenosuke Yoshinaka, a powerful protocol official who, according to many accounts, expected lavish gifts and treated Asano with contempt. Day after day, Kira's scorn grew sharper, cutting insults disguised as lessons, delivered before other daimyo who dared not intervene. On the 14th day of the 3rd month, something inside Asano finally snapped. In the pine corridor of Edo Castle, with witnesses all around, he drew his wakizashi and struck at Kira's face. The blade left a scar that would mark the official forever, but in that instant, Asano had signed his own death warrant. Drawing a weapon within the Shogun's castle was an unforgivable crime, punishable by only one fate. The die was cast, and honor would demand its price in blood. But Asano's death was only the beginning, and the men he left behind would not rest quietly. The sentence of death. The judgment came swift and merciless, as justice always did in the rigid hierarchy of Tokugawa Japan. By the castle's strict rules, drawing steel inside Edo Castle meant death. Asano was ordered to commit seppuku that very evening. His domain would be confiscated, and his samurai would become Rōnin, masterless warriors adrift in a world that had no place for them. Kira, however, walked free without punishment, a disparity that enraged Asano's men, who saw it as proof of corruption and injustice. To Bakufu officials, the case was closed. To the Rōnin of Aku, it was unfinished business carved into their very bones. As the sun set, Asano knelt in the garden of a daimyo's mansion, his white death robes pristine against the darkening sky. His chief retainer, Ōishi Kuranosuke, stood among the witnesses, his face a mask of composure that concealed a heart breaking with each passing moment. The ritual blade gleamed in the torchlight as Asano restored his honor through death. The blood that stained the earth that night also sealed the destiny of his retainers. What followed would test the limits of patience, loyalty, and deception. The Oath in Shadows. About 300 samurai had served Lord Asano, but when faced with the reality of becoming Rōnin, most sought new masters or gave up the warrior's way entirely. Only 47 men gathered in secret around Edo, while Ōishi maintained his disguise in Kyuto's Ichiriki tea house. They swore to avenge their master or die in the attempt. The plan they conceived was bold, but rooted in patience. They would vanish into the city, wait until Kira lowered his guard, and then strike like a thunderclap. Ōishi became a masterpiece of deception. A daimyo's chief retainer turned apparent drunkard, haunting brothels and taverns, his reputation collapsing in plain sight. Spies reported his debauchery, convinced he was no threat. The other conspirators took humble jobs, merchants, laborers, even beggars in Edo's alleys. They exchanged coded letters disguised as business notes, and their true selves disappeared into the everyday life of the city. For 22 months, their loyalty burned in silence, tested by hunger, poverty, and the ache of waiting. And while the world thought Ōishi had fallen into ruin, in truth, his disguise was nearly complete. The master of deception. Ōishi's transformation was so convincing that even his family was not spared. To protect them, he divorced his wife and sent her back to her family, ensuring they would not share his disgrace. To outsiders, it looked like a man destroyed by shame. In truth, it was a mask sharper than any blade. While he staggered through Kyuto's pleasure quarters in rags, his mind mapped Kira's Edo mansion in precise detail. Entrances, exits, guard rotations, escape routes. Every piece of information became part of a puzzle he would one day complete. Through spies and informants, Ōishi learned that Kira had grown complacent, believing the threat had faded. That illusion of safety would be his undoing. The time for waiting was almost over. Soon, snow would fall and vengeance would rise with it. The night of vengeance. Snow fell like cherry blossoms as the 47 Rōnin gathered outside Kira's mansion on the 14th day of the 12th month, 1702, January 30th to 31st, 1703 in Western dates, 22 months after their master's death. The winter wind cut through their cloaks, but it could not cool the fire in their hearts. Each man carried weapons hidden beneath his cloak, some freshly forged, others wrapped and guarded since the fall of a coup. Ōishi divided his force into two groups, one to storm the front gate, the other to scale the rear wall. At the sound of the drum, the silence of Edo's night was shattered. The crash of splintering gates rolled like thunder, followed by the clash of steel, and the shouts of men awakened into chaos. Kira's guards, caught unprepared, scrambled to defend their master. Some fought with desperate courage, blades flashing in the torchlight, while others fled or surrendered rather than give their lives for a man few truly respected. In the narrow corridors, smoke from overturned lamps mingled with the metallic tang of blood. Tatami mats were torn, screens shredded, and the once elegant mansion became a battlefield. Neighbors awoke to the din of combat, hearing drumbeats and piercing whistles that guided the attackers like signals in the dark. The Rōnin moved with relentless purpose, pressing forward room by room, calling out for Kira to face his judgment. And when they finally found him, the moment that would define their legend arrived: the final justice. In a small storage shed behind the main house, hidden among sacks of rice and charcoal, they found him. Kira Yoshinaka, the man whose cruelty had destroyed their world, crouched in the darkness like a rat in its hole. Gone was the arrogant courtier. In his place cowered a terrified old man. In many later accounts, especially dramatizations, Ōishi offered Kira the chance to die with honor through setsupuku. Whether this occurred historically remains uncertain, but Kira begged for his life, his voice trembling as he promised wealth and favor. The Rōnin judged him unworthy of a warrior's death. With a single clean stroke, Kira's life ended, the blade sharpened by 22 months of patient hatred finally finding its mark. Tradition says they washed Kira's severed head at a well. Some place it at Sengakuzi Temple, others at the site of Kira's Edo residence in Ryugoku. Wherever it occurred, the head was wrapped in white silk and carried through the snow-laden streets to Sengakuzi. Yet the act of vengeance was not the end. It was the beginning of a storm that shook Japan itself. The price of honor. At Sengakuzi Temple, the 47 Rōnin knelt before their master's grave and placed Kira's head upon the stone as an offering. They burned incense, chanted sutras, and laid their weapons down as if preparing to join Asano in the afterlife. Their surrender shook the city. The trial that followed divided the nation. Were these men criminals or heroes? Confucian scholars argued that loyalty to one's lord outweighed loyalty to the state, while Bakuhu officials insisted that no personal bond could excuse breaking the law. For months, the debate raged not only in the corridors of power, but in tea houses, marketplaces, and family homes. But before their fate was decided, the streets of Edo erupted in whispers, songs, and forbidden prints. Aftermath in Edo. The news of the raid spread through Edo like a storm, carried by whispers in the marketplaces and gossip in the tea houses. Commoners marveled at the Rōnin's resolve, praising their loyalty as the purest form of bushidō. Yet among officials of the Bakuhu, the mood was far darker. Fear that the precedent of private vengeance might inspire chaos in an era carefully balanced on peace. Merchants quietly sold woodblock prints of the raid, even though censorship forbade such depictions. Poets composed verses that hinted at the Rōnin without naming them, and traveling storytellers found eager audiences in every village. The contradiction was everywhere. A government determined to suppress the tale, and a people determined to keep it alive. In Edo's tightly ordered society, the attack on Kira's mansion became more than a vendetta. It was a mirror that reflected the unease of the age. The Tokugawa regime promised stability, Yet here was proof that honor could still drive men to break its laws. For some, it was terrifying. For others, inspiring. And from that tension, the legend began to take on a life of its own. The legend lives on. The story of the 47 Rōnin did not end with their deaths. Within weeks, the tale spread through Edo like wildfire. Woodblock artists carved vivid scenes of the night attack. Kabuki playwrights rushed to adapt it for the stage, and storytellers recited their deeds in bustling marketplaces. Censorship forbade naming the real figures, so dramatists disguised the tale under new names and set it in an earlier century. Yet everyone knew it was the Rōnin of Aku. At Sengakuji, pilgrims began leaving incense, coins, and prayers at the graves, a tradition that continues even today. Each year, on the anniversary of the raid, crowds still gather to honor men who turned loyalty into legend. What began as an act of vengeance transformed into a cultural touchstone, shaping Japan's idea of what it meant to live and die by bushidō. The graves of the 47 Rōnin at Sengakuji Temple have never lacked for visitors, their story growing stronger with each passing generation. What began as an act of vengeance became a testament to loyalty, honor, and the price samurai were willing to pay for both. Their tale has inspired countless works of art, literature, and theater, each retelling adding new layers to a legend that refuses to fade. In choosing death over dishonor, the 47 Rōnin created something immortal, a story that speaks to the deepest values of the human heart. The snow that fell on that December night in 1702 has long since melted, but the fire that burned in the hearts of 47 masterless samurai continues to warm the soul of Japan. Their legacy reminds us that true loyalty cannot be bought, true honor cannot be faked, and true courage cannot be broken. If this tale has moved you, share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to Japan Rewind for more hidden stories from the land of the rising sun. Until next time, may you find the courage to honor what matters most.